Today, I want to start with a very important question. Why should I speak English every day? I know many of you have been studying English for a long time. You've learned grammar, vocabulary, and reading skills. But when it comes to speaking, it can still feel difficult, right? Sometimes you might feel afraid to make mistakes, or you may find it hard to remember the words you want to say. I understand, because I was once in the same situation. In the beginning, I could read and write in English well, but speaking it every day seemed like a huge challenge. I thought to myself, I'm not good enough yet. I'll practice later. But then I realized something important. Speaking is the key to really learning a language. Why? Because language isn't just about knowing the rules. It's about using the words, making them a part of your everyday life. When you speak English every day, you give yourself a chance to practice and improve. It's like learning to ride a bicycle. You can read all the books about how to ride, but if you don't practice, you won't get better. So, let's think about it. Why is speaking English every day so important? First, it helps you improve your fluency. The more you speak, the easier it becomes. You won't have to stop and think about every word. Speaking regularly makes English feel more natural. Second, it builds your confidence. When you practice speaking, you'll start to feel more comfortable. You'll make mistakes, and that's okay. Mistakes are part of learning. But the more you speak, the less you will be afraid of making them. Finally, speaking every day helps you remember new words and phrases better. When you use the language in real conversations, your brain starts to remember the words more easily. Now, I want you to think about this. What could happen if you spoke English every day for just 10 minutes? Would it help you improve? Would it make you feel more confident? Let's talk about this together and see how we can make speaking English a regular part of our lives. When we think about learning a new language, many of us immediately imagine studying grammar rules, memorizing vocabulary, and practicing writing. We often feel that these things are the most important aspects of learning a language. And yes, they are essential. However, there is one aspect of language learning that many students overlook or underestimate: speaking the language every day. Now, you might be thinking, why should I speak English every day? You might feel unsure about your speaking skills. Or maybe you're worried about making mistakes. These are completely normal thoughts, but today I want to explain to you why speaking English every day is one of the most powerful things you can do for your learning journey. I know that many of you have been learning English for a while. You've studied a lot of words, learned the rules, and even read many English books and articles. But when it comes to speaking, it still feels difficult, right? Maybe you're afraid of making mistakes, or you get nervous when you have to speak in front of others, or you might even avoid speaking because you don't feel ready yet. I understand how you feel. When I first started learning English, I was in the same situation. I could read and understand English fairly well, but speaking it was a completely different story. I could imagine the words in my head, but when I had to speak, they just didn't come out the way I wanted. I would hesitate, stutter, and get frustrated. In my mind, I thought, I'm not good enough to speak fluently. I need to practice more before I speak. But here's the thing. Speaking is the key to unlocking true fluency. I realized that no matter how many vocabulary words or grammar rules I learned, if I didn't speak English every day, I would never improve my ability to communicate effectively. I had to stop avoiding speaking and start practicing regularly. So, why should you speak English every day? Let's break it down. The first reason you should speak English every day is that it helps you become more fluent. Imagine you're learning to play a musical instrument. The more you practice, the better you become at it. Right? It's the same with English. The more you speak, the more natural it becomes. When you practice speaking daily, you start to think in English. You don't have to pause and translate every sentence in your head anymore. It becomes a part of your daily life. You'll begin to speak more quickly and with more confidence because your brain is used to forming sentences in English. Fluency doesn't happen overnight. It takes time. But the more you speak, the more you'll improve. Every conversation is a chance to practice and get better. And don't worry about being perfect. In fact, you shouldn't focus on being perfect at all. The goal is to communicate and get your message across. Fluency comes with experience, and the more you experience speaking English, the better you'll get. Another important reason to speak English every day is that it builds your confidence. It's natural to feel nervous when speaking a foreign language. You may be afraid of making mistakes or worried that others might not understand you. But here's the truth. You will make mistakes. And that's okay. Making mistakes is one of the best ways to learn. In fact, when you make a mistake while speaking, it's a sign that you're trying. It shows that you're pushing yourself, stepping outside your comfort zone, and practicing. The more mistakes you make, the more you learn. And every time you try, you gain confidence in your ability to communicate. Think of it like this. Imagine you're learning to ride a bicycle. At first, you might fall or feel uncertain, but each time you get back on the bike, you get a little better. Eventually, you can ride without thinking too much about it. Speaking English works the same way. At first, it may feel awkward, but the more you speak, the easier it becomes. Don't be afraid of mistakes. Instead, celebrate them as part of the learning process. Over time, you'll become more comfortable and confident in your speaking skills. Another reason to speak English every day is that it helps you remember new words and phrases better. Research has shown that one of the best ways to retain information is by using it. When you learn a new word or phrase, it's easy to forget it if you don't use it regularly. However, if you speak every day, you'll naturally start using the words you've learned in conversation. Your brain will start to associate those words with real-life situations. You'll remember them better because you're actively using them, not just passively reading them or writing them down. Speaking also helps you practice different sentence structures and grammar patterns in context. For example, you may learn the past tense in your textbook, but when you speak, you'll practice using it with real examples, such as telling a story or describing an event from your day. This type of practice makes the grammar rules stick and feel more natural. When you speak English every day, something amazing happens. You start thinking in English. At first, when you learn a new language, you may translate everything in your head from your native language to English. But the more you practice speaking, the less you'll need to translate. Your brain starts to think directly in English, making your communication smoother and faster. When you're practicing speaking English daily, you'll stop worrying about translating every single word and start focusing on expressing your ideas. This shift from translating to thinking in English is one of the biggest milestones in language learning, and it only happens when you speak regularly. Lastly, speaking English every day can be a lot of fun. You get to use the language in real-life situations. You can talk about things you enjoy, such as your hobbies, your favorite movies, or your weekend plans. You can ask questions, share opinions, and even make jokes in English. The more you speak, the more motivated you'll feel. You'll see that you're improving, and that will give you the confidence to keep going. Plus, speaking helps you connect with others. Whether you're talking to a classmate, a teacher, or a friend online, speaking gives you the opportunity to build relationships and make new connections with people around the world. So, to answer the question, why should I speak English every day? The answer is simple: because it's the fastest way to improve your English. Speaking every day helps you improve your fluency, build your confidence, remember new words, think in English, and have fun while doing it. I challenge you to start speaking English every day, even if it's just for 10 minutes. Find someone to talk to, or practice by speaking to yourself in front of a mirror. It's not about perfection. It's about practice. The more you speak, the more progress you'll make. Are you ready to start speaking every day? Let's do this together, step by step, until speaking English feels as easy as breathing. When we talk about speaking English every day, it sounds easy and straightforward, right? But when it comes to real-life practice, many students face obstacles that can make it seem difficult or even impossible. It's important to acknowledge these challenges because, by understanding them, we can work on solutions together. Let's take a closer look at some of the common challenges you might face when trying to speak English daily. One of the most common challenges is not living in an English-speaking country. You might think, if I don't live in a country where English is spoken every day, how can I practice? This is a real concern for many learners, especially those who are far from environments where English is the primary language. You may feel that it's difficult to find opportunities to speak with native speakers or people who use English regularly. Maybe you don't have English speakers around you, and the people in your life don't speak English fluently. This can make speaking seem like an impossible task. However, living in a non-English speaking country is not a reason to give up on speaking English every day. In fact, it presents a unique opportunity to get creative and find ways to practice even without a native English environment. One simple yet effective solution is to practice speaking to yourself in front of a mirror. This might sound strange, but it's a powerful technique to build your speaking skills and gain confidence. When you speak to yourself, You don't have to worry about being judged, and you have the freedom to practice speaking out loud without any pressure. Here's how you can do it. Stand in front of the mirror and imagine you're having a conversation. Talk about your day, your thoughts, or something you learned recently. If you're practicing a new vocabulary word or sentence structure, say it out loud to yourself. You can even act out different scenarios and imagine that you're speaking to someone else. For example, you could pretend to explain something to a friend or introduce yourself in a job interview. Speaking in front of a mirror helps you practice speaking naturally, which is a key skill for real conversations. The more you practice in front of the mirror, the more comfortable you'll become speaking in English. It's also a great way to improve your pronunciation and fluency. You'll notice how your confidence grows each time you practice. Another helpful solution is recording yourself. Use your phone or any recording device to record yourself speaking. Choose a topic, like describing your favorite food or telling a story, and speak for a few minutes. Afterward, listen to the recording. This will help you identify areas where you need improvement, like pronunciation or grammar mistakes. It also allows you to track your progress over time. By recording yourself regularly, you'll see how much you've improved, which can be motivating. Plus, you'll get better at speaking naturally and clearly because you're actively listening to your own voice. Another common challenge is not having anyone to practice English with. You may feel isolated, especially if you don't have English-speaking friends or classmates nearby. This can be discouraging, as having a partner to practice with can make a huge difference in your language learning journey. Without someone to speak with, you might feel stuck or that your progress is slow. But again, just because you don't have someone to practice with doesn't mean you can't speak every day. You have more options than you might think. One of the best solutions for this challenge is to join online language exchange groups or communities. The Internet makes it easier than ever to find people who are also learning English and are willing to practice with you. There are many language exchange platforms and apps like HelloTalk, Tandem, or Speaky, where you can find people from all over the world who want to practice speaking English. These platforms allow you to connect with native speakers or fellow learners through text, voice, or video chats. You can set up regular conversations with people from different countries, making it easy to practice speaking on a daily basis. This also gives you the chance to hear different accents, which will improve your listening skills as well. If you're not comfortable with a full conversation yet, you can start with text-based chats. You can write messages in English and have someone correct your mistakes, or you can send voice messages to get used to speaking out loud. Over time, as you gain more confidence, you can move to longer voice calls or video chats. If you're lucky enough to have friends or family members who are learning English, practice with them. Even if they are beginners, practicing together can be motivating for both of you. You can start by talking about simple topics, like your daily routine, hobbies, or even describing things you see around you. You don't need to have a perfect conversation. Just the act of speaking in English is valuable practice. If you don't have any English learners around you, why not encourage someone in your life to learn with you? You can start together and help each other along the way. It could be a fun challenge for both of you to practice speaking daily. This way, you don't have to feel alone in your learning process. Many learners avoid speaking English because they are afraid of making mistakes. It's completely normal to feel nervous, especially when you're not sure if people will understand you, or if you will say something incorrectly. You might fear that others will judge you or laugh at your mistakes, which can make speaking feel intimidating. But here's the truth. Making mistakes is part of the learning process. It's impossible to learn a language without making mistakes, and those mistakes are the key to improving. In fact, the more you speak and make mistakes, the more you learn. Instead of seeing mistakes as failures, try to see them as opportunities to grow. Every time you make a mistake, you're learning something new about the language. When someone corrects you, take it as helpful feedback, not criticism. This will help you improve, and soon you'll make fewer mistakes. When you practice speaking, remind yourself that nobody is perfect, and even native speakers make mistakes sometimes. The important thing is to keep speaking and learning from your errors. The more you practice, the fewer mistakes you'll make, and the more confident you'll become. Don't worry about speaking perfectly. The goal of speaking English is to communicate and get your ideas across. As long as the other person understands you, that's the most important thing. Focus on conveying your message rather than stressing about every little mistake. Over time, you'll naturally improve your fluency and accuracy. Sometimes, when you try to speak, it's hard to know what to say. You might feel stuck or unsure of what topic to talk about. This is a common problem, especially when you're not used to speaking in English every day. It can feel awkward to have a conversation if you don't have a clear idea of what to talk about. To make speaking easier, prepare a few simple topics that you can talk about. You don't need to discuss complex ideas or deep topics. Just start with everyday conversations. You can talk about your favorite food, your weekend plans, what you did yesterday, or what your dreams and goals are. These topics will help you get comfortable with speaking about common things in English. If you're practicing with a language exchange partner, you can ask them questions about their culture, hobbies, or family. This not only helps you practice speaking, but it also allows you to learn more about the world around you. As you can see, even though there are challenges to speaking English every day, there are many simple and effective solutions to overcome them. The key is to stay motivated, be patient with yourself, and keep practicing regularly. Speaking English doesn't need to be a stressful task. It can be a fun and rewarding part of your learning journey. Remember, every challenge is an opportunity to improve. So, even if you don't live in an English-speaking country or don't have anyone to talk to, there are always ways to keep speaking, keep practicing, and keep growing. Let's continue speaking English every day, no matter the obstacles. The more you practice, the closer you'll get to fluency. Keep pushing forward, and you'll see amazing progress in no time. Now that we've discussed the challenges and solutions when it comes to speaking English every day, it's important to look at real-life examples. These stories can inspire and motivate you by showing how speaking English regularly leads to incredible results in everyday life. In this section, we'll share some real-world examples from schools, workplaces, and even personal experiences. These stories not only highlight the importance of speaking English daily, but they also show how it helps people grow, become more confident, and improve their language skills faster. Let's start with a story from a school that did an experiment to see if speaking English every day could really help students improve their language skills. This experiment took place at an international school where students from different countries were learning English as a second language. The school decided to encourage students to speak English every day, not just in class, but during their lunch breaks, recess, and even when they were walking between classes. At first, many students were nervous. Some were afraid they wouldn't sound perfect, or that their classmates would laugh at their mistakes. Others felt unsure about speaking English outside the classroom, especially since they weren't used to speaking English in social situations. But the teachers in the school were determined to help the students overcome their fear, so they created a fun and supportive environment for everyone. To make it less intimidating, the teachers divided the students into small groups. Each group had a leader who would be responsible for making sure everyone spoke English during their activities. They could talk about anything: what they did that morning, their favorite food, or their hobbies. The goal wasn't to speak perfectly, but just to speak as much as possible, even if it was just simple phrases or short sentences.